All right, all right. It says I'm live. It looks like some of the platforms aren't live yet, but let me know if you're here. Give me a like, a love, a comment, or a hi, or something so I know that you're here and so I know that you can hear me. I don't want to go forward and even though this tells me on my settings that you should be able to hear me just fine, I need to know that you all can actually hear me. So we are doing today. This is our second Thursday of the month. Wow, can you believe we're in our second week of the new year already? How many people's New Year's resolutions are already fallen by the wayside, right? Hey, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to make anybody feel bad about themselves. We're not resolution shaming here tonight. We have love and respect for everybody because you know what? If New Year's resolutions worked every year, we wouldn't have to keep making the same ones year after year after year after year. And so today is our second Tuesday, and our topic today is our seven-figure business building. But before we can get into the nuts and bolts of seven-figure business building, so talking about podcasting, hosting your events, creating these multiple streams of income, right? First, we really have to get clear on what it is that we really need to do to underpin that, to be a foundation for that. I guess the technical construction term would be an undergirding. Whatever it is that makes us a strong foundation, it's really this concept of breaking through invisible boundaries, breaking through invisible boundaries, breaking through invisible barriers, breaking through invisible belief systems, right? Things that hold us back that we don't even realize is holding us back. And so we think about it, everybody today, everybody listening, whether they're listening live, listening to the recording, I mean, everybody, all of us want to change their life. Like if you don't want to change your life, you are probably not listening to JJ Conway, because I am not a status quo kind of person. Never been, never will be. But think about it. Where do we think is the beginning of that journey? Where do we start? And I think we start by buying into the belief that any idea that we have is truly possible. And when you stop and think about it, for some of us today, it really is empowering. It's an empowering state to live and explore life from, because many of us grew up in situations where we didn't have the option to believe that something could change, that something could happen, that we could make it work, that we could make it happen, right? Like we didn't have that luxury, right? You know, life's a blankety blank and then you die. How many times did I hear that growing up, right? And so it's wonderful when we can all come into this collective kind of consciousness, this collective energy, this empowered energy that we're doing by being here together. That's when our ideas for the seemingly impossible, they can be spoken out loud, and we find support and we can nurture those ideas, and then we can invest our energy into those ideas. We can invest our time, our talent, our treasure, and we can literally increase the amplitude of the vibration of those ideas. Now, look, I know some of you today are like, I don't want her to talk about no woo woo stuff. Y'all, look, as a 23-year Air Force physicist, I don't talk about a lot of woo woo stuff, but it's very, very true that energy really does dictate what we do, what we see, what we get out of life, and what we put out into life. And you stop and think about the whole concept anyway of vibrations. Think about how when you run into somebody at the store, you can tell if you're about to ask this tall guy for help and you're about to ask that tall guy for help. You can tell by their energy. You can tell by the vibe, right? Which one of those guys is more likely to help you. And that's where we get the whole idea from vibe, from vibration. It's the energy that they're putting out. Well, the energy that we're putting out has the same impact. And I know when I started off in speaking and professional speaking, one of the exercises that you do is you list a lot of your stories. You list out different stories to try to make your points. You know, Les Brown says, never tell a story without making a point, and never make a point without telling a story, right? And so we start off by writing down these stories and practicing these stories. Well, all of my stories were negative. Why were all of my stories negative? Because that was all of my focus, was always on the negativity. I wasn't coming from an attitude of gratitude. I wasn't coming from a abundance mindset. I wasn't coming from a prosperity mindset. I was coming from a woe is me, life stinks, one day maybe I'll be rich. One day I'll be able to climb out of this situation. But deep down inside, I didn't believe that I was good enough for it, that I deserved it. Because I had enough people pour into my life that I wasn't. And I'll bet you have too. Now that doesn't mean that's the thing holding you back. You can be very confident and not realize what's holding you back. And so if you're a leader in that respect, if you're confident in that respect, you're bold in that respect, and things still aren't working out the way you want them to, well, you want to keep on paying attention to this talk today, to this class today. All right. But before I move on, I want you to drop some comments, some likes, some loves. Give me some indication that you can hear me, that you like what you're hearing, and that you're interested in learning how we can broadcast a stronger signal of our intention out, because that way we can get more back what we're looking for. And I know. I wish I had the videos. I was trying to find them. I'm just going to have to reach out to him. And the videos that Bruce Norton, not Norton, Bruce Norton, if you're out there watching, shout out to you. I appreciate everything you taught me about short sales and foreclosure consulting. Bruce Lipton, about how powerful this concept of vibration is. How if you have individual widgets in a room and they're all moving at their own little thing, over time they will all begin to align. And when we come together, our energy helps calibrate each other. It helps us increase the amplitude of our vibration so that we can get what we're looking for, instead of focusing on the stuff that we don't. And we hear about that a lot, right? Like, yeah, everybody. I mean, when I first went to National Speaker Association meeting, I remember being so excited about my little discovery about abundance and prosperity mindset and the RAS and all these things that are holding us back. And then I found out that every other speaker in that room was talking about the same thing. Now, they wrapped it in a different package where they were all talking about the same thing. There's nothing new. My favorite book says there's nothing new under the sun. All right. Now there's a thing that God created us with. And we talk about it a lot in what we're going to start later. And I know I shouldn't do that on screen. That probably doesn't look very good. Can you see that book? I don't know if you can see it. Well, you know what? I'm just going to look bad on screen, y'all. Wait, can I do this cute? No, I'm not. You know what? I'm not a cute person. I get it. All right. So one of the classes we're going to be going through later this year is going to be our self-image rising, and it's based on psycho-cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And then we also have Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and then Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. Those are the three big books that we walk through, other than the Bible, of course. Those are the three big books that my teachings walk throughout the course of the year. And one of the things we find here is that we have some very underutilized, shall I say, underutilized faculties that are hardwired into our creation by the Creator, and we cast it to the wayside because it doesn't find place. Our imagination and our creativity rarely find place in today's adult grown world, right? That's kid stuff. And in fact, by the time we graduate from high school, by the time we graduate from college, by the time we get disillusioned at our first job, it just seems like life beats that out of us, right? And so then we're not creative, we're not imaginative, and the only time we use that intuitive faculty seems to be for when we want to think about all the things that can go wrong, all the ways we can look foolish, all the ways we can fail. Well, there's no debate about how these things work in science. I know I probably didn't do a good job about doing that, but I'm going to tell you right now, when we enter into community with people who are doing the same thing, maybe think different thoughts, but have the same values, value each other, people of value, adding value, and we're all trying to build wealth together, this thoughts that we think, the ideas that come to us, they have a higher level of vibration, a higher level of amplitude. They're calibrated at a higher frequency of thought. Okay. And so if you don't understand the terms that I'm using, that's okay. I know it's a little non-scientific to you, but it's borne out by science. And the biggest and most important part is borne out by behavior. You know, there's a lot of things you don't have to understand to make them work. I don't have to understand. I do, because I was a physicist in the Air Force, and the Air Force gave me a good physics undergrad, and they gave me a good nuclear engineering master's degree, right? I understand how the electricity works when you flip on the switch, but you don't have to understand how electricity works to be able to benefit from the light. All you have to know is when I flip that switch, as long as I've paid my bill or whoever owns that establishment has paid their bill, there will be light. Similarly, you don't have to understand how the glass top stove heats up what needs to be heated up so you can cook your dinner. All you have to know is that when you turn the knob, if somebody paid their electric bill, that thing is going to come on. You put that pot on, it's going to get hot and your food is going to cook. You don't have to know the inner workings. What you have to know is I do this and I get that. And I'm telling you today that when you make a commitment to your future and you make a commitment to using all the faculties that God let me say that again. When you make a commitment to using all the faculties that God hardwired into your brain, then things begin to change. You wonder why so many people have failed New Year's resolutions on day 12. It's because they have not changed what really needs to be changed. Our willpower, our affections, our emotions, our intellect, all of those things, they only take us so far because that's the soulical part of man. It's not the spiritual part of man. And I was really caught off guard the other day. You might find it interesting. I was really caught off guard the other day. I'm at this conference. They brought me in, put me in a hotel. I got to speak at a very nice place. Can't wait to edit the video and add it to my sizzle reel. And they bring me in and I'm talking with the planner about something about things being spiritual. And he's like, oh, it's all spiritual. And I was so shocked to hear somebody else say that because I'm not used to non-spiritual people talking about spiritual things. But at the end of the day, it really is spiritual. And one of the main reasons a lot of us fail to break through whatever boundary it is that's keeping us from achieving our goals is we have not accepted that it's about more than us. It's about more than us and it's bigger than us. That's why when you get together with a community of like-minded people, the energy helps pull you and lift you up. Now, granted, you could get in with a group of like-minded people with energy that pulls you down, right? So like that's why I don't hang out with dream killers. Like whenever you have an idea and everybody around you says, well, that won't work and that won't work or that won't work. Well, I don't hang out with those people. I only hang around people like Shar Halliburton here. I only hang around people like that who have high level energy and believe that the world is their oyster. They believe that they can make it happen. If they can dream it, they can do it. Who believe that we're not going to worry about what we have lost. We're going to praise God for what we have left because what we have left is enough. All right. All right. You know, that's the thing. We can hang around. Let me give you a real world example. You're a married couple, right? You're a married couple. And if you hang around only people who dog their spouse out all day long, guess what you're going to start doing? It's all about this energy and living into our commitments by putting ourselves in position to succeed because the energy of that group, it begins to work deep down in the spiritual parts of us, deep down in the subconscious parts of it, and begins to change our energy, elevate our energy. And the next thing we know that happens is when it comes up to us that perhaps we might feel like dogging out our spouse, instead we look for the good. Right? We seek positive, we assume positive intent, as John Maxwell says, right? That doesn't mean they're always positive, but we do. This is when we become empowered. We become empowered when we can think from a higher level of thought frequency. Now I'm going to, for anybody who's on live or listening later on, I'm going to eventually walk through the 7 levels of character. And you're going to find that a lot of people, myself included back in the day, live down in the lower levels of character. And you know you're living and walking in the lower levels of character because you find it characterized by frustration, cheating, anger, and not to say that those feelings aren't valid at all levels of character, but the fact that they color your entire life, your entire walk. Okay. And so I want to encourage you to notice as we go through some more discussion tonight that you're going to have some thoughts, and some thoughts that you're going to have are going to be the same things you've been thinking. Like there's really nothing new under the sun. I'm not going to tell you anything today that you haven't heard before. It's just that now you're at a different level. And so these things are going to feel more meaningful and more deeper because now you have chosen to live from a key principle of creation. You made that choice when you decided to keep listening to me when I talked about how we have this God-given ability called an imagination, and called a creativity, and that we can use it to change our life and acquire what we want. This is what James Allen wrote about when he said we got to link our thoughts to our purpose. See, everybody, myself included, we got a purpose inside us, right? And at some level of consciousness, we're aware of that purposeness, right? And that awareness said, you know what? I need to be here with JJ tonight on a Thursday night. You saw that I was going live, and normally you wouldn't click on it, but you're there, and I'm so glad you are, right? There was something in your awareness to your purpose that said, you know what? I'm going to invest this time with JJ Conway today. And it's not a result of anything that I say or do. It's actually because you said yes to you. Let me say that again. It's because you said yes to you. You said yes to your ideas, to your thoughts, that you're going to think about these things in a higher level. I'm telling you, there's things that we do and we don't realize how we are breaking loose of something right there. And we get these ideas, and these ideas are energy. Okay. When you get advanced in physics, you find out everything is energy, right? It's just the energy is contained in different ways. This body is energy. It gets contained and expressed in certain different ways. And with the energy holding things together is better than the energy that dispersed, right? And so I don't want to get too scientific. Let me just move forward. Emerson said, where our focus goes, our energy flows. Okay. So when we decide we're going to walk in our purpose. I had a choice tonight. I could pull out my phone and play this new game that me and my son downloaded. Oh my goodness, y'all, it's so addicting. I was like, I'm gonna have to take this thing off my phone. I could make the choice to have played that up to the very last minute, or I could have made a choice to say, I'm going to do something today that my future self is going to be thankful for. And it's when we have this energy that begins to flow, a lot of times our ideas, they're abstract, they're not really clear, they're not fully divine, they're not really developed or focused. But as we give more of our time, talent, and treasure to considering and contemplating these ideas, then the ideas begin to impact us on an intellectual level, on a physical level, on a spiritual level. And so then we begin to operate in certain faculties, okay? Faculties like imagination and intuition and perception, reason, will, memory. And then when we go beyond the contemplation of these levels and actually back the ideas with action by investing our life force, by doing something, now we're linking the idea and the thoughts to action. So now we're embedding the idea into the very heart of our nervous system. And we don't even look at it that way, right? But think about it. What it's called the central nervous system. And in the creative process, the process of manifesting and bringing forth your idea, it's the physical equivalent. You're linking action to the idea. It is central. It's at the very heart of your creation and manifestation. And the thing is, we don't look at ourselves as creative and manifesting people. Okay. I know some of you do. Some of you are this like, oh, I manifest. Whenever I want something, I manifest. I attract it to my life. I channel it to my life. Okay, this is not for you today because you already know all the things there is to know. Okay, so you're not the one I'm talking to today. But for some of us, we have been beat down for so long, and we have, how do I want to say it? We have lied to ourselves for so long that ourselves doesn't trust ourselves. And I know some of you have heard me say this before, but it's like every time I tell myself I'm going to get up early in the morning and work out, and the body's like, you've been saying that for almost 50 years. And every time the alarm goes off, what do? Snooze, roll over, right? I'm going to go to bed on time. Now, that's my big struggle right now because I really flow in the evening, and I hired an operations manager, and I haven't I haven't worked with her for about 8 months now because my doctoral work has really just. So I'm like, we're putting all that stuff on hold. I'm still doing my Thursday classes, but we're putting all the other stuff on hold, right? I'm doing the conferences that I paid into, that I paid for. We're doing those because I already paid for them, but everything else, put it on hold because I got to get this doctoral done. But before I put all that on hold, one of the things she told me, she said, well, if you flow at 1 a.m, then you need to learn how to reroute your schedule and your family schedule around your schedule so that you're flowing at 1 a.m. And I was like, oh, you a genius. So I really do try to look and see about how we can do that. But regardless, a lot of us, we're reactive. I know you're not reactive. You're a leader. You take charge and you make things happen. But I'm not talking about what you do at work. I'm not talking about what you do outside your house. You know, there's a whole lot of difference between what we do outside our house and what we do in the midnight hour. And I know that for myself because I remember when I was at my low point in my first marriage, and outside of the room, you know, I hadn't put on lieutenant colonel yet. So outside of the house, I was Major Wiggins, and I was just doing this and doing that. And I was kicking butt and taking names, and I was making all this stuff happen. And a lot of people, I don't ever believe it because I think I'm something of a cream puff, but a lot of people said that I was fairly intimidating. And I just remember having that weird dichotomy of at work, I was this leader person, but at home, I didn't speak my mind. At home, I didn't stand up for myself. At home, I didn't actually protect my energy. I didn't protect my body. I didn't protect my spirit. I didn't protect I'll tell you the only thing I did protect, and this is what ended up changing things and setting into motion what changed things, is I protected my son. But I didn't have enough in me to protect me. And so a lot of us today, we need to learn how to honor our ideas. And the way we honor our ideas is by giving them life. When an idea comes to you, we give it life. And eventually it takes on a life of its own. And then that idea begins to change what we do. Doesn't that sound so simple when we put it like that? But it really is easier to say than to do sometimes, isn't it? You know, I mean, if you're anything like me, there's times where you have the intellectual understanding of an idea and then you take the action. Like you made the time, you invested the talent and treasure, and still nothing seemed to change. There might have been times where my idea was just another dream that slipped away that I couldn't do anything about, or, you know, maybe I got too busy, or maybe I didn't have the finances, or, you know, maybe I didn't have the competency and I couldn't get anybody else on board. And I just, you know, in those situations, we just watch our dream die. It just dies. It withers on the vine. We can't do what we need to do. And I'm telling you, there's a real emotional price to that disappointment. Think about all the unfinished projects that you have around the house. Some of y'all crafters, you know what I'm talking about. There's this thing that I'm going to get to, and there's this project that I'm going to do, and then there's that project that comes along, and then the Fine Arts Council is doing this special thing. So I'm going to go buy all the equipment to go do this special thing. And I remember when I remember when I gave away about 20 years worth of crafts that I was going to get to one day. And it released something in me, because what I didn't know was all that unfinished business was registering in my subconscious. And all that unfinished business was telling me I'm never going to win. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to do it. And what happens is subconsciously, we are subconsciously trying to protect ourselves to further disappointment, further pain, further failure in the future. And so then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, where does this stop? And I don't know, you know, I always felt like I was pursuing different fronts. You like fighting the two-pronged war when I'm trying to get to my dream. You know, on the outside, I'm fighting the outside conditions and circumstances in my physical world, right? Like the time, the lack of time, being a mom, being a wife, being in the Air Force, being out of the Air Force, being fill in the blank. You know, maybe the budget doesn't where I am, and it takes money to make money, and now I don't have money, so how can I make money? You know, feeling like I don't have the skills or the resources. I'm not as smooth a speaker as this person, and I can't manipulate others like that person, right? And just one thing on top of another. And it's just like we have to deal with that and fight. for the world's cooperation to allow our dream to grow. And that's the external, right? That's the external fight that we have. But we also have a fight inside. We have to fight to encourage ourselves almost every day from the voice of doubts and self-judgment. Oh, and the disbelief within me. We have to fight the voice that says, oh, just wait, just hold off, just wait. You're not ready to do that yet. Just hold off. And it seems like it's hard enough to do what you got to do within the context of the outside world, let alone fight this war that's raging inside. And you may feel like you're always standing on that field of two battles, one outside of you and one inside of you. And you almost feel like you got no control over either one. Always on the defense, never truly leading the charge for your dreams. Not in any meaningful way. For a little bit, sure, you got a spurt here and there. You did like I did with my blog for a long time. Got going real good. And then when things were starting to blossom, all of a sudden, just didn't do it. Just when you need that support from that inner voice. someone who's supposed to be, your best friend, your best whatever. You end up beating yourself up because others are beating yourself up. Anybody? Wait, no. I was about to say drop it in the chat, but don't drop it in the chat. And if you're listening to me later, you can tell me about it. You can send me a PM. But has anybody ever had a dream and the people that were supposed to be on your side tell you you're wasting your life? Anybody else ever have that happen? If you don't actively resist and rebuke that, you'll begin to beat yourself up in their stead because you can't believe that this is actually working. And you say the words, and some of us teach the stuff. I feel like the Lord has me teach this stuff, so I'll finally get it through my thick skull. Because over and over and over and over, I find that I am my biggest enemy, right? But then what we see is there becomes a point in time. There comes a point in time where it's not just you being on the defense, but it's switching over to the offense. And in order to do that, we have to break through these invisible boundaries. And I think about the times that this is something that I'm not really working with this individual anymore, but I'm always going to give honor where honor is due. And I was working with an individual named Paul Martinelli, and he used to teach this concept. And I was like, oh, this explains so much. One of the most frustrating times that I would have is the time that I spent on those battlefields as a conscious competent, right? So knowing I had to do this to change my outside world, and I knew I had to do this, and I knew the plan that would win the war for me, but I lacked the awareness of how to export the knowing into my life. Because like I could know the things and I could see the things, and then I would realize what really was happening most of my life is I was an unconscious incompetent, where I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know those things how to change. So I didn't feel like it was my fault for those things. But when you know and you know and you know, oh my goodness. So we have to learn to honor those feelings. We have to learn to acknowledge those feelings. We have to learn to not necessarily incorporate them, but to give them their due and thank them and release them. See, it's a lot of times we can get so overwhelmed with all of our faults and overwhelmed with all of our negative self-talk and overwhelmed with all the things that other people say. And I'm talking about people who are supposed to be there for you, right? And that we can just kind of shut down and we can just stop paying attention. And we think we are because we're doing the things. We're buying the courses. We're paying for the coaching. We're doing the things, right? We're making the videos. We're writing the scripts. We're recording the classes, but they're not selling. Why are they not selling? Because there's something in our energy. There's something in our energy that is betraying us. And when it goes on for too long, we give up because we just didn't understand our belief in God's creation. We didn't understand how to harness the imagination and the creativity that God put here in between our ears. In fact, a lot of us, we believe in luck. We don't say we believe in luck because we're elevated than that, right? We're not superstitious. We're too grown for that, right? But it really is a much harder, hurtful, and frustrating experience for us when we quit on our dreams, knowing that we know better. And when we quit on ourselves and we still have hope, and we quit on ourselves and we still have the belief in the truth, but we lack the awareness of how to export that into our lives. And then we fail to live from that to hope, and we fail to live from that understanding, and we fail to live from that belief. And then our dream never actually begins to have its own life. Some people like to use the image of giving birth to the dream, and having it become its own thing. And it's a beautiful thing when you create something and it actually grows legs and it goes off to do what it was designed to do in the world. But many of us, we never truly live our highest expression of that awareness and our potential. So how do we move on from that? How do we move on from the crushing disappointment of knowing that we ought to be able to breathe life into our dreams? I mean, people have paid us big money to help them breathe life into their dreams, right? In fact, I always think it's hilarious. I look back at some of my earlier clients, they've outpaced me. I'm like, well, I worked with them and we came up with the plan and they executing the plan. And as they got higher, they might have brought in some higher coaches, but they outpaced me pretty quick. I'm like, man, it's good stuff. So why wasn't I moving? Why did it take me so long to move? It didn't have to take me 13 years to get from being $800,000 in debt to being fully retired. It didn't have to take that long. It took that long because for me, I needed to come from a position of being able to be controlling of my life. And I needed to be able to live in a position of being the person I needed to be instead of always looking for the external things. See, I was looking for the outside things. If I do the budget, if I pay the bills, if I do this, checklist, read a step, do a step, get a banana. If I looked at all the external things. And not only did I look for the external things to make my life better, but I looked at the external things when it came to how I felt about things. So if you gave me a compliment, I was happy for the day. If you stepped on my new shoes, I was upset for the day. If you paid me for a course, I was happy for the day. If you denied, rejected my speaking application, then I was dejected for the day. See, this is when we're letting the externals control the internals. And it's time we start letting the internals flow out to make an impact on the external. We have to know we can live from what we know, and we can profess and believe and identify things as truth and actually live into it. So it's an idea of living from instead of living into. And it sounds like a subtle shift, but I think it's very important to understand. So let me take a look at our time and I'm going to expound on that for just a little bit. All right. So there's a big difference. In fact, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we're going to come back. I'm going to split this up and we're going to come back next time and we're going to expound on that thought. Okay. So there is a big difference in our results when we live into our hope, understanding, and belief versus living from them. See, when we are living and into life, the starting point of us is separation from what we want. And we see what we want as something to aspire to. It's the place that we will one day arrive. We are not yet one with it. We are separate. But when we are living from our hope, from our understanding, from our beliefs, the starting point is oneness with those beliefs. The starting point is oneness with that hope. The starting point is oneness with what we want. They're not places or states of being that we one day hope to reach or achieve. There's no reaching required. We're already connected. The Lord has already connected us, and we've always been connected to everything we need to execute everything that's on our heart to do. And so you think about, how do we even become aware of the desire in the first place if you weren't already one with it at some level of your being? Now, I'm going to put the brakes on that for just a second. For all my religious folks out there, I'm not preaching a oneness gospel, all right? But let's think about this for a second. If our Lord says that we are judged according to what we have and not according to what we don't have, if he says that he is going to reward those who diligently seek him, and if he says that he is going to allow us to do all things through Christ who strengthened us, then wouldn't it make sense that the Lord wouldn't even allow the idea to come and disturb you and be on your heart if he wasn't going to equip you to do it? Well, you know, JJ, sometimes the enemy sneaks in. Of course, sometimes the enemy sneaks in. The enemy's always trying to tear down somebody who's doing something. If you're not doing nothing, ain't nobody going to try and tear you down. It's going to let you be over there and talk yourself out, burn yourself out, because you'll burn yourself out one day. But oh, when you're really doing something, now you've got some energy that's really going to change the world. You got some energy that's going to change your communities. You might even have some energy that's going to change your family. And when you are really real and living from the vision, when you're really living from the dream, from the hope. Now you're changing things. Now your energy's different. Now people are getting, last year you said you're going to lose 100 pounds and nobody believed you because you hit snooze on the thing and you didn't go walking and you ate this and you ate that and you didn't control your eating. Now, I'm not saying these are the only reasons that people are overweight. Okay. So I understand because I've lived it where the medication that you're on and the medical procedures that you have, they can wreak some havoc with your body. But we all know the situation of times in our life where we were not doing everything that we said we were going to do. And you know, one of the reasons why it's so hard, one of the reasons so many New Year's resolutions are already gone is because we weren't living from a position of being that thing, being that person. It's off in the distance and maybe we'll get there one day, and I hope, and I just hope, I can't wait, and one day, and now you're operating off of willpower instead of operating off of self power, off of dream power, off of hope power. Hope will take you a lot further than willpower. Oh, somebody need to put that in the chat. Hope will take you a lot further than willpower. And when you really believe that you have it, I believe that I have my best health at my fingertips. It helps me to walk in my best health because the Lord has already put it in my hands. He has already encapsulated me in his Holy Spirit that allows me to make decisions that are better for my health. Don't y'all see how much weight I've been losing, y'all? Woo! And that was before the new year. Look, I'm not going to the gym for January and February. I'll get back in March when everybody else who gives up is gone, right? But you got to understand, it's not just about doing the things, it's about being the person who has the results. I was mentoring someone the other day, or no, maybe I was interviewing them. I think I was interviewing them for my doctoral and sorry, I was interviewing someone the other day for my doctoral work. And one of the things that they said was how their family had introduced them on account of their businesses to all these people who were millionaires and even some billionaires. And she was like, I've never seen the kind of scribble scrabbly. Now, she didn't say that, that's my word, but all the scrapping and clawing that people have at these lower levels of behavior and these lower levels of character. Because all I've ever been around are people who are doing things and making big things happen in the community. And they all operate in a higher level, not a higher level of I got more money than you. That's not what we're talking about here. Not a higher level of I went to this muckety muck school and you didn't. That's not what we're talking about here. They walked in a higher level of character and a higher level of energy. They walked in gratitude and integrity and trusting the process and trusting that when they are called to do something, they have already been equipped to do it, whether it's in their hand or it will come to them when the time is right. And so for us, we have to allow our dreams and our hopes to be the dominant energy of our drinking. Drinking, the dominant energy of our thinking. We have to. Whew, I promise I wasn't much of a drinker before I came to the Lord. All right. We have to allow our hopes and our dreams to be the dominant energy of our thinking rather than allowing the conditions and circumstances of the outside world to be the dominant energy of our life. It's those conditions and circumstances that we want to change, right? But the problem is one of the reasons many of us are struggling so hard to get stuff we don't have is because we're struggling and we're fighting and we're resisting. And the harder you resist, the harder it gets. It's like a special type of plastic. I forget what the name is, but it's the stuff that slime is made out of. With slime, the harder you hit it, the harder it gets. If you do it soft, it smushes, right? But if you hit it fast with a lot of energy, well, then it hardens. And now it's hard. right? And so what we're doing is a lot of we're trying to force it. I'm going to force myself to work out every morning. I'm going to force myself to have no sugar. I think working out every morning is good. I try to work out every morning. I think no sugar is good. I try to do no sugar. I realized at the end of last year I had allowed sugar to creep in without realizing it, because a lot of things that I thought were sugar free, they really weren't, or they were based with artificial sugars that were really not good for me, right? So are those bad things? They're not bad things, but the more you hit it, and the more you beat yourself up, and the more you angry, and the more you're resisting the pleasures of life, and the more you're beating yourself up because you're just not good enough, and it just doesn't happen, and all of this and all this. And I know that somebody's identifying with what I'm saying today because you've been there. But when you let go and you allow your dream to be the dominant energy, then the change of your inner world reflects in your physical world. If you want to see yourself as healthy, if you want to see yourself as healthy, it will unfold more healthy in your life. You'll begin to make more healthy choices. If you see yourself as productive, you can allow that to unfold in your life, and you'll make more productive choices. You walk from that instead of walking from the, oh, I'm not this, and I'm not this, and I'm not this, and oh, I messed up again, and oh, I ate a candy bar, and oh, I walked past my coworker's office, right? This is us saying, okay, I know there's things that I can do, and there's things, right? Like you working out. Yoga is a workout. I didn't used to think so until I did my P90X. Whew, I tell you what, by the time you're done with that, you'll think the weight room was a lot easier. But it's the same. It's the same thing about the creative of the creative process. When we allow things, our most challenging effort then is constantly defending our beliefs and dreams from the sustained assault of our past thinking and our self-judgment, the constant bombardment of the endless messages of scarcity, lack, limitation, fear, competition, despair. Like, this is all the things that our world allows to be broadcast unchallenged every minute of every day. It's on every news channel. It's coming to us constantly from our phones. It's like you almost can't escape, when we have to truly allow ourselves to hold a place for truth while under this kind of constant assault. And that's a muscle. It takes discipline, it takes practice, it takes focus, it takes conviction, and it takes guts. It really takes guts to stand for what you want. It takes guts to stand for your truth. It takes guts to actually say, this is what I'm going to do. And you can do what you're going to do over there, and you can do what you're going to do over there. But this is what I've been called to do. And really, I feel like the only way that we can really sustain taking those steps, the only way we can really stand for what we want and what our truth is, what God has placed in our heart, is to be with a group of like-minded people who are not only going to be able to encourage you, but also shine the light of truth when your thinking sways off course. A couple months ago, I was with Les Brown and John Tallarico in the Breakthrough event, and I had been mentored by Les Brown virtually, and I was determined to meet him in person and get my picture with Les Brown. And I got my picture with Les Brown. And then I thought about the things that I had signed up for over the years that hadn't helped me, the coaching programs that I paid big money to that didn't result in anything moving forward, because either I didn't gel well with the coach, or because I didn't have the time personally to put into it the way I should have. I signed up for too much and spread myself too thin. And so I remember saying to myself, these people have always supported me and uplifted me. So I'm going to sign up for this coaching program. And I'm so excited. I'm getting ready for this coaching program. And I'm in this next level of what I've already been doing with them. And the first session, John Tallarico's like, you seem to be operating from a lot of frustration. And I was like, no, I'm not. Because in my mind, I'm like, I teach this stuff. I'm way above all that. Well, I had fallen into a lot of frustration, and part of that was because I had moved to this rural area and I wasn't surrounding myself during the pandemic. I wasn't surrounding myself with the fellowship that I needed to stay encouraged and to stay focused. It's the same reason the Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. That's not just a biblical, I mean, wait, let me rephrase that. That's a biblical principle, but it's a life principle. So if anything that you want to do, it's important to be around like-minded believers in that dream. It's important to be around like-minded people who have the same values. It's important to be around people who are also chasing after their dreams. That fellowship of support, it's a real power. And you got to make sure that the power that's speaking in your life or what you really want out of life, other people, they're so incredibly important in every area of our life. And that's the way the Lord designed us. It's the way the Lord designed us. And so, we study, we talk, we share, we teach what we believe to know to be our truth. And the knowing comes not just from an inner knowing, but we've all experienced it. Haven't you experienced the awareness and the recognition of truth when it resonates with truth? And haven't you met somebody and you get to talking and you really get to really see you really get to see and observe and study with other people. You get to see how your energy bounces off of theirs. You ever just meet somebody and you feel like you've known them for all your life, right? There's just so many things where the energy is so important. But most of us today, we're leading the pack. We pulling everybody else behind with us. We got the dream and everybody else is riding on our coattails. And they're not only riding on our coattails, but they're eating the food we provided and they're throwing the bones back to us like, well, get a bigger chicken next time. And so we want to be able to know, we want to be able to really get to this place where when we're stuck, we have a community around us that can help us bust through these invisible boundaries in our thinking, because our potential is limited. Our abundance can be limited. Our ability to create can be limited. And our ability to even love and be loved. Oh my goodness, our ability to love and be loved. How many of us go around saying, well, the good book says, treat your neighbor as yourself, love your neighbor as yourself, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. A lot of us love our neighbor a whole lot and we love ourselves a whole little. I know my grammar's not good today. It's getting late. But think about it for a second. How many of us, not even just ourselves, but our family? Think about your family. Now, I'll tell you what, as many complaints as I've ever had about my ex-husband, this is one lesson I'm very glad that he taught me. Is that I used to be the kind of person that I would do all that needed to be done for everybody outside my household. And then all I would give left over from my husband at the time was the dregs of my personality and the dregs of my energy. And it's like if you have a cup of tea or something, right? You have a cup of tea, and I don't have my tea with me; it's in the other room. And so if I sound a little scratchy, that's why. But think about a cup of tea. You got a cup of tea, and at the bottom you got some of those tea leaves at the bottom, right? And so, you pour out a little for this person. You pour out a little for this person at work. You pour out a little for this person at church. You pour out for a little bit for these moms at your kids' school. You pour out a little bit for these people at the restaurant. You pour out a little bit for the Lyft driver, right? And when you get home, all that's left is the little bitty bit left with all the tea leaves and stuff floating around. And ain't nobody want to drink that. We have to learn how to protect the best of ourselves for ourselves, protect the best of ourselves for our dream, protect the best of ourselves for what God has called us to do, protect the best of ourselves for the ministry that He's put in our hands, protect the best of ourselves for ministering to our families. And I remember when my ex-husband pointed that out to me, he's like, you do everything for everybody else, and all I get is you worn out, tired, and broke down. And not only was he getting me worn out, tired, and broke down, but I wasn't even getting none of that. I wasn't even getting the dregs. There wasn't nothing left in the cup by the time it came to give me something. And a lot of us have been walking in that way far too long. And these are very real yet invisible boundaries in our thinking. And we can spend a lot of time and money and energy trying to identify and break through what's wrong here and what's wrong there. But it's only by investing our life, only by investing your time through study, your talent through taking action in a focused way, doing the things you know you're very good at doing. You're doing the things that you know you can do instead of worrying about all the myriad of things that you can't do. Oh, wait, I need to hang on that for a second. How many of us spend too much time stressing about what we can't do, and we don't even do the things we can do? It's funny I'm saying this because I wasn't going to teach on this today, but I was cleaning out my office and I found this old chart. Y'all know I love my little Sharpie charts, right? And so, if this circle in here around us represents all the little things that we can do, what most of us do is we stress out about all the stuff out here, the stuff we can't do. We stress out about the stuff out here, the stuff we can't control. We stress out about the stuff out here that somebody else is doing better than us, or that somebody else is doing here and there and the other. But we still aren't doing the little things we can do. Maybe you can't run a marathon tomorrow, but can you walk 10 minutes? Maybe you can't cut sugar right now. Maybe you can't go cold turkey, but can you cut back? Maybe you don't know how to be a better parent, but can you just start with, oh, I shouldn't use just. I don't like just. But maybe you don't know how to be a better parent, but can you take 5 minutes and just undivided 5 minutes with your kid, undivided 10 minutes with your kid? You would be shocked at how much of a difference just 10 undivided minutes with your kid will make in your family dynamic. Now, I am not a counselor. I am not a family practice counselor. I ain't nothing but a mom who figured out one thing. When I first started trying to do 10 minutes of undivided time with my kids, that was the hardest thing in the world for me to do because I only had the one at the time. I only had the one at the time. When I started trying to do that, oh, let me tell you, I had so many, that's when all the stuff comes. It was just as bad as prayer. Like when I get down to prayer, that's when I think about the laundry and I think about the planning for dinner and I think about all this other stuff and I have to fight all that, right? Instead of praying. And it's the same thing. So instead of praying or instead of playing, it's the same thing with playing with Philip when he was a little boy. I'm going to give him 10 minutes, just 10 minutes of all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to get back to cleaning. I'm going to get back to running my business. I'm going to get to doing all the other things. But I'm going to give him 10 minutes of undivided, whatever he wants from mama time. It was the hardest thing in the world to do, to give him that 10 minutes. And now it's a little bit longer. Like now me and the little one, we get about an hour of undivided time, of undivided mommy and cubby time, right? But we don't even do the little things that we can do. And you could have an issue, and we could use weight as an issue, and I can use child rearing as an issue. I could use not being able to do a marathon. I haven't done a marathon since 2010. And so to me, I did the Marine Corps marathon in 2010, and I feel like I need to do another one because, that's over 10 years old. That PR doesn't matter anymore, right? But I can sit around and be mad at myself that I can't do the marathon anymore, that I can't even really do a half marathon right now because of my injuries. But instead of stressing about that, instead of worrying about that, instead of wasting my energy on that, how about I do what I can do, which is walk a mile or 2 or 3, depending on how I feel every day. Focus on what you can do. Same thing with the kids. Maybe you're a working mom today and you don't have the time. Oh, y'all. Now look, if you are a stay-at-home mom, and I love being a stay-at-home mom now, right? So this is not a dogging out on stay-at-home moms. So if you are a stay-at-home mom and you are looking down on the working moms because they are not decorating their kids' stuff with glitter and doilies and they're not crafting all these different things, you know what? Let it go. Because sometimes they're doing the best they can. And I remember when I was a single mom, and the moms of the football team, my son's first football team, they got together to make a banner. They're going to make a banner. It's going to be held together with some Velcro so the boys can run through it. And they're like, yeah, we need to go to the store and get some glitter. And we need to do this and do this. And every time they kept adding stuff to this list, I was like, how long is this going to take? I have to, I'm still in uniform. I got work to do. And this is really quickly getting out of hand. My child does not need this. My child certainly doesn't need no glitter on his football banner. And now I live in Texas, and so there are no holds barred when it comes to Texas football. But back then I wasn't living in Texas. I didn't have the memo. I did not understand the assignment. But I didn't have time for all that. And after a while, I was like, I'm out. After about 2 hours, I was like, I'm out. I have stuff to do. Like I legit had stuff to do. And because there was nobody else at home getting it done for me, right? Um, so sometimes we feel like we can't do it, and I would watch the moms. We would go to the games, and they would have a different shirt for every game that they made themselves, with a cricket machine, and they would have all these different things that they were doing, and like when they had snack, they made homemade little homemade cupcakes with little footballs on them, and each person's name piped on it. And when I had snack, y'all, it was a couple things of honey buns and some Capri Suns. I wasn't going to waste my energy feeling bad about what those other moms could do, because that was outside of what I could do. And here's what I could do. And what I did was enough. And what you can do is enough. And here's the cool thing about doing what you can do. Now, y'all can see closely, you see some little red dots here. When you start doing what you can do, it expands the circle of what you can do. So when I start doing more and more and more and more within my sphere of influence, then my sphere of influence grows. It either grows in my capacity to do it and do it better and do it faster, more efficiently, or even just get it done in the first place, or it grows in my capacity to attract people into my life to do it for me. And you have been holding yourself back for too long, playing it safe, marginalizing yourself and marginalizing your truth because you fear something or you lack the confidence within yourself to play a bigger game. And I'm telling you today, invest your time, your treasure, your talent, your energy into your dream and begin to walk as according to the person that you want to be to achieve the dream that you want to achieve. And see if it won't come to pass. I've enjoyed being with y'all today. I want to appreciate everybody. I got so excited that I didn't pay good attention to my chat. I want to thank you all for being here with me today. And if you are listening to this later on the Building Wealth Together podcast, we will be splitting this up into two episodes. I encourage you to come every every Thursday, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and join me for these free classes. You can get your money questions answered. You can get your business questions answered. And today we did some mindset. But when we get in next month, this second Saturday, my goodness, I am all torn up. When we get into next month, our second Thursdays, our 7-figure business building, we're going to start talking about topics like making your first $1,000 with podcasts, making your first $1,000 with live events. Go into the Building Wealth Together Facebook group and cast your votes for the ones that you want the most. The ones with the most votes, that's what I'm going to teach on first. All right. Well, that's all I have for y'all today. I want to thank y'all for being on. I know that your time is your most precious resource, and I am just honored. I am just elevated and excited that you chose to spend your time with me today. I'm JJ Conway. Y'all take care and be blessed.